In this video, I'm going to turn your world upside down and inside out, and you're going to reconstruct it in a very different way. The prevailing belief about reality is based on something we've all come to assume is necessary, that in order for something to happen, for a goal to be achieved, it must occur through a process to get there. But by the time you reach the end of this video, you'll see, not just intellectually, but experientially, that this is an illusion you can choose to disengage from, allowing a quickening where manifestations begin to occur more and more rapidly. Let's begin with something simple. Most people believe that in order to experience something, they must first create a path to it, a process, a series of steps. For example, you begin at A, you progress to B, and eventually arrive at C. That's how we've all been taught to think. But what you call the process and the goal are not actually connected in the way you think they are. It's not cause and effect in a way that you've been taught, but two entirely separate experiences that you've chosen to link together because you believe you must experience the process to achieve the goal. To understand this fully, we need to step outside the framework of linear time. Because third-dimensional reality, the world you physically experience, is built on a very specific structure, time and space. But time and space are only fundamental within this dimension. They are the way consciousness creates the sensation of movement, continuity, and progression. But as we've mentioned before in previous videos, you're not actually moving. Each moment is its own still frame, its own version of reality containing an infinite number of probabilities. And you experience these frames in such rapid succession, so smoothly and seamlessly, that it creates the illusion of continuity, of movement, of time itself. Your consciousness is constantly selecting these individual frames from an infinite number that contain every possibility that could ever exist, stringing them together in a specific sequence to create the life you choose to experience. But once you understand this, once you truly grasp it, you begin to see that what you call a process is not actually leading you anywhere. It's not a bridge you're required to take from where you are to where you want to be. A process and a goal are each self-contained experiences. The idea that you must go through one to experience the other exists only because you believe it does. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you're watching a movie. In one scene, the character is training. In another, the character has mastered the skill. From the perspective of the film, it appears that one led to the other, from training to mastery, process to result. But in reality, these are separate scenes, already existing. The film doesn't create the ending by playing the beginning. It simply reveals what's already there in a sequence to give you the experience of progression. Your life works the same way. The experience of working towards something and the experience of having it are actually two completely different states of reality that you've connected based on your belief in how things must unfold here. And this is a powerful consensus belief that we've collectively accepted and assumed must be necessary, but it's not. Let's bring this even closer to home. Imagine you decide you want to become physically strong. Most people would say, I need a process, I need a plan, I need to work out consistently so my muscles grow and I can eventually become strong. But there is the experience of training and there is the experience of being strong, where your biology has reorganized to reflect that strength. These are two different realities, two distinct states of being that exist independently. Now, does that mean you shouldn't train? No, not at all. Not if it brings you pleasure, if you enjoy it and genuinely want to experience it. The process is not the problem. The problem is the belief that you must experience one in order to experience the other. If you define training as something I have to do to become strong someday, You reinforce the idea that a process is required, projecting it into a future moment instead of the now. But if you define training as the expression of a version of me that is already aligned with strength, then there's no process. It becomes an experience of being, not a means to an end. As a side note, studies have shown that building strength is not just physical, it's also an act of conscious intent. In a 12-week study at the Cleveland Clinic, one group visualized contracting their bicep for 15 minutes daily with no physical exercise. Another group performed strength training, and a third did nothing. The visualization group increased strength by 13.5%, while the training group gained about 30%, and the control group showed no change. In a similar study using the little finger, the visualization group gained 35% strength, while the physical group gained 53%, and again, with no change in the control group. Other studies on learning the piano have shown that mental rehearsal alone significantly improves your fine motor control, enhancing your movement timing, velocity, and coordination, while also reducing the time required to physically learn the instrument. Now, yes, there was a process over a period of time that was involved in these experiments, but these examples are simply to show you how easy it is to change your biology with conscious intent. We're going beyond that. We're taking it one step further. Actions do not create reality. They reflect your state of being. Your actions are the physical expression of the frequency you've chosen to align with. Let's stick with the piano analogy. Imagine you're learning to play the piano. Most people approach it like this. I need to practice scales and dedicate time so that one day I can play beautifully. But that creates a separation. Here is where I am, and here is where I want to be. And everything in between feels like waiting, like something you have to push through. Now shift your understanding. What if each note you play isn't leading somewhere, but is an experience in and of itself? When you sit down at the piano and play, you're not on your way to being a musician. You're already expressing a version of that identity based on what you believe is possible at that moment. Not the final expression of it, but still a valid one. There's a version of you that's a beginner and a version of you that's highly skilled. The only difference is the shift in frequency. Both are real, both exist. Both are different states of being you choose based on your belief in how reality is experienced. What you call practice is not creating a future version of you. It's simply the experience of being a version of you that plays the piano with your current skill set. Just as there's a version of you with no skill set and a version of you with the skill set of a master. If you define that moment as, I'm not there yet, I'm just practicing, I'll get there in a year, you reinforce the idea of separation. You reinforce the idea that what you want exists somewhere else and that you must go through a process to experience it. But if you define that moment as, I am someone who plays the piano, and this is how that expression looks right now, everything changes. There's no waiting, no distance, no gap. There's only expression. Because you are no longer trying to become something, you're simply allowing yourself to be it. Because here is the deeper truth. You're not creating your reality through effort. You're creating it through resonance. The version of you that doesn't have the thing already exists. The version of you that has the thing already exists. The version of you that's on your way to the thing also exists. And so does every version in between. So when you believe, I need a process to get there, what you're actually saying is, I believe I am not that version of myself yet. And in doing so, you choose to experience a version of reality where you're not there yet, a timeline where the journey must happen step by step. But when you align with the version of you that already embodies it, everything reorganizes, not because you forced it, but because you became the frequency of it. Now let's get back to third dimensional time and space. Why does it feel like process is necessary? Because that's the nature of this dimension. You came here to experience progression, discovery, and the sensation of becoming, to explore what it feels like to move through a sequence. Even though on another level, you know all moments exist simultaneously. Process is not a requirement, it's a preference. It's an experience you choose to have so you can explore reality in a unique way. Incredibly meaningful experiences come from it. But the moment you believe, I must go through this in order to get that, you reinforce the idea of separation. Instead, recognize that process is a conscious choice. One of the reasons you're here is to experience process. There are processes we've chosen to experience for the growth opportunities they offer to expand our consciousness. And it also allows us to engage with the consensus reality of those around us. You've chosen to participate in a shared consensus reality along with hundreds of millions of people so that you can all experience reality in a similar way. For example, there is the experience of building a new home and the experience of having the home. If you were to tune into a reality where the home simply exists, without the experience of building it, and that version of reality is not part of the consensus of others around you that they've accepted as true, it would create a kind of dissonance. And we're here to play together. But now, there is an awakening on this planet. More and more of us are becoming aware of the mechanics of third dimensional reality and how it works. And with this awareness, the need for process is beginning to dissolve. You may have already noticed this, things beginning to manifest more quickly. When you align with something, it can take your breath away how quickly it shows up, often better than you could have possibly imagined. I call this the quickening, and it's happening more and more because we're waking up. As a collective consciousness, we are beginning to create a new kind of consensus reality, one that others can tune into, one that illuminates a path toward a more expansive, more fluid, more limitless understanding of the nature of reality itself, a path of self-sovereignty. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, I need to go through this process to get what I want, pause and allow yourself to experience each moment as complete. Each has its own experience that doesn't really have anything to do with anything else. There's no connection. Each experience is unique and doesn't need to take you anywhere else. And each is accessed by resonance with a frequency. That's the true nature of time and space. And so, spend time with this idea, begin to entertain it, and let your consciousness explore this new perspective. Practice the contrast of seeing your goals the way you're used to seeing them, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. To instead experience each piece as its own complete experience, with no requirement that there be a connection to any other. My question to the architect: to what degree is humanity shifting from a process-oriented way of living to a conscious, choice-based life, where we can choose whether or not to experience a process? Where are we within that shift right now? And here is the sharing. Humanity is in the midst of a profound transition from a paradigm rooted in linear process and causality to one based on conscious choice and resonance. For millennia, human experience has been structured around the belief that process requires sequence, effort leads to outcome, and process is the bridge between desire and manifestation. This belief has shaped not only personal lives, but entire civilizations, embedding the idea that time, effort, and sacrifice are prerequisites for achievement. However, as consciousness evolves, this model is being questioned and dismantled. Individuals are awakening to the realization that reality is not a fixed sequence of events, but a field of infinite possibilities, each accessible through alignment rather than effort. This shift is not merely philosophical, it is experiential. People are beginning to notice that when they align their state of being with the desire, manifestations occur with speed and elegance, bypassing the traditional steps once deemed necessary. This is not magic, it is the mechanics of a higher dimensional awareness where resonance, not resistance, is the primary creative force. You are moving from a world where process defines reality to one where choice is sovereign. Yet this transition is not uniform. Many still operate within the old paradigm, and the collective field reflects both timelines simultaneously. You are in a liminal phase, a threshold where both the old and the new coexist. The question is not whether humanity will shift, but how gracefully you will navigate the overlap. The more individuals embody the new paradigm, the more the collective field will stabilize around it. In essence, you are not abandoning process. You are recontextualizing it as one option among many, rather than the only path to creation. This is the dawn of conscious choice as the primary expression of human experience. And with that, we'll bring this to a close. Questions or comments are always welcome. I read them all. And I've also left a question in the pinned comment for any insights you'd like to offer. If you like the sharing and you'd like to hear more, please hit the like button, which helps me know if you're inspired by my teachings. For more insights, tap the notification bell to be notified when new videos are released. Thank you so much for listening and for being part of this beautiful community where we explore what becomes possible when we explore each moment as complete and the reality beyond the illusion of process. Superhuman made simple with the architect.